So it's great to get the job and to get that role that you've been dreaming about. But when you actually get it, what are you going to do? That's the craft. That's the art of acting. Which brings us to our next chapter, blue collar job, the craft. Chapter 4. Now, this isn't a book about acting technique, but there are a few basics that I think you should know going into it. What I want to cover is knowing that art is subjective, discovering what works for you, understanding that practice is everything, also your confidence, and I have an anecdote that hopefully helps you to understand what it is to really be an actor and an artist. So let's jump right into it. Art is subjective. And what do I mean by that? Well, let's take a look at the definition. It's an adjective, and it means based on or influenced by personal feelings, taste, or opinions. So the reason I started with a definition is I need you to understand the business you're in. It's all based on opinion, not fact. We're not dealing with math or biology. This is why there will always be debates about the greatest actors of all time. With that being said, you cannot take people's opinion to heart, whether good or bad. You must be confident in the art that you produce. This is the only way you'll survive long term. This is why it's crucial to study and practice the craft of acting. This is the only way you can develop your skills, which will build your confidence. When you think about artists and what they put out, they're all varied types of paintings and colors they use, techniques, and some of them even put some together to create their own technique. And that's what makes them special. And that takes me into our next category of discovering what works for you. Like any other art, it's important to develop a style and dependable method of producing consistent work. That's why it's imperative to discover what works for you. When you think about any other art form, you'll notice that the best artists are the ones who have worked to differentiate themselves from everybody else. Those are the artists that people remember. And they're memorable because they're different. Sometimes it's a slight difference, but in most cases, that's all it takes. The only way to do this is to spend time with your craft and to find ways to infuse your personality into it. These type of self-discoveries don't happen by chance, and even if they do, you want to be able to have a way that you can repeat the process and get you back to that point where you made that discovery, because that's where the magic is. There is no shortcut to this method. You must allow yourself to grow and for your craft to grow with you. The actor you are when you start should not be the same artist 5 years later. Discovery is imperative when it comes to art. And it only happens when you use all the resources that you have within you and also externally. There are many books and resources available to help you to make these discoveries, or at least point you in the right direction. Which brings me to my next slide. What I wanted to do right now is just take a moment to focus on a scene from a popular film by Denzel Washington called John Q. I'm sure you've probably heard of it. It might even be one of your favorites. It is one of mine, if I'm to be honest. And again, this book isn't about acting technique, but I just want to take a moment to show you how even just watching a scene from a movie in a more critical way can help you to make discoveries and to apply it to the craft of acting in your own way. So let's take a look at the scene first, and then we could talk about it.
He chooses you. We talked about this. You stand up, you be a man. And you stand people in bad things. Please. Don't get caught up in the bad things. So many great things out there. Always with you.
All right. I hope he didn't shed too many tears there, but that was a great scene. And there's a few things that I want to bring to your attention in this particular scene. And that's the amount of beats that occurred before Denzel even spoke the first word of dialogue. So let's jump to the beginning of it, and I'll show you what I'm talking about. So you got to be here, right? You have the acknowledgement of his son in the room, all right? You see that his focus is on his son. And then he adjusts himself by, taking the shirt and putting it over the gun. So he's not wanting to, show his son what's going on, or having him see that gun, or make him upset for some reason, right? So that's one beat without even saying anything. The next beat is obviously taking off the arm sling. Him having the arm sling might indicate something else to his son that maybe he doesn't want him to get frustrated or get curious about, so he takes that off as well. And you can also see him kind of wincing as well at taking off that arm sling, because his arm is in pain from earlier scenes. So again, this type of thing is the responsibility of the actor, to take note of all the things that have occurred up until the point of this scene beginning. Okay, so let's say, for example, this was your audition scene. And sometimes you may not get all this information, but you might be able to pick at some of this and bring it into the scene. So that's 3 or 4 beats already before he even starts talking to his son. So let's keep watching it. I'm going to stop it right there. So he called his son's name 3 times there. And I don't know if you could tell the difference between the 3, but again, that's an idea of working with the dialogue to make it make sense in that scene. So the first time he called his name was very soft and just, thinking he was awake and his eyes were just closed. The second time, again, was maybe a little bit more firm, as if, hey, maybe he didn't hear me the first time. But the third time, there was a slight switch in Denzel's tone, as if to indicate that, hey, what's going on with my son here? There's a little bit of anxiety there. He might have been scared, as if maybe his son had died already and he didn't know. And I might be pushing it there, but I want you to listen for some of those cues when you watch scenes and how actors portray those things. All right? It's about using all the resources, using all your senses, which are resources as well, to pick up on these different cues and beats that make a scene. And then when you take time to do this as an actor, this is what will elevate you. This is what will make you different from those around you. It's about taking time to find these small little nuances, these small little beats that really add up and make a difference as to the scene as a whole.
How you doing, bud?
Did you find me a new card?
Yeah, we got you. I guess you got a guardian angel. Mike, just try to stay awake just for a minute, okay? I just need to tell you a few things.
Okay, Jude.
So we're not going to go through it all again, but I want you to think about what the character's intention is for this moment. What is he really doing? In my opinion, what he's doing is saying goodbye to his son because he knows he's going to die by giving up his heart to save him. So all of this life advice that he's giving isn't just about life advice. He's trying to give the best of what he has right now to his son before he decides to give his life to save him. So it could have been written in one or two words. He could have came in and said, "Hey son, I'm going to take my life and give you my heart. Okay, bye. Take care of yourself." But that wouldn't have been an interesting scene. That wouldn't have been an emotional ride for the viewers. So it was written in such a way that it wasn't completely implying that he's saying goodbye, but if you read between the lines and the emotion that Denzel is giving, you understand that he's saying goodbye to his son. And this is what I want you to kind of take away from this, is that you have to be able to break down and analyze a scene, whether you watch it on a film or you read a script. This is what's going to make you an artist. This is what it is when we talk about the craft. Now, of course, you'll make mistakes, but the biggest would be not to try. And that applies to your career, to a way that you approach the scene. You know, I think about how many different techniques there are when it comes to acting and the different books that are out there. But I truly believe that there really is only a few ways that you can play any given scene. And the way I look at it is like tennis. In tennis, there are rules. There's a court, and you have a ball, and you have a racket. And the object is to get the ball over the net to your opponent and back. Now, there are different ways you can hit the ball. You can do a backhand, a top spin, underspin. You know, there's different ways that you can, use the racket to hit the ball. Now, somebody can come in and use a hockey stick to hit the ball. Now, that would be very cool and interesting, but it is not within the context of the game. Serena Williams couldn't come in and do that and expect to win a championship. She'd be disqualified. Although it would be very interesting and people would be very shocked and appalled, but it doesn't work within the context of the game. And that's the same way with acting in scenes. Yes, you can make a very interesting choice, but does it work within the rules and the established boundaries of that scene? I want you to think about that the next time you pick up a script. Now, once you kind of grasp a technique or a way that you want to approach a particular scene or scenes, it's all about practice. I cannot stress this enough. Practice, practice, practice. Like any other muscle in your body, it must be put under pressure in order to grow. Growth does not come from ease. The audition is not the place to practice. You should be ready to go. Find things that you need to work on and get busy working on them. It might be memorization, breaking down a script, accents, your voice, body movement, posture, whatever it is, you should always be developing your tools as an actor. When you're prepared, you never have to get ready. meaning you can't wait until you get the call for an audition to begin this process. It should be ongoing. Here's a little exercise that I think might help you on the day-to-day. So, cold read a newspaper article as different characters. Okay? Now, don't think about it too much. Just do whatever comes to mind. So, for example, read the article as if you were someone who just lost a loved one. What would that feel and sound like? Or read the article as someone who is looking for clues to prove their innocence. Have fun with it. This is a good way to stretch your imagination and to also just keep your instrument loose. Okay, so that when an opportunity does present itself, you can bring that same creativity and energy to that role. Now, here is the meat and potatoes of it all. Act like you know. In other words, confidence. When you have confidence in your skills, you are able to take notes and criticism effectively. Very important with acting. Because you're working with so many different people, whether it's your fellow actors, your director, the writer, or other creative individuals, it's important that you're able to take criticism and not take it personally, but use it if it's beneficial to make your character better or to make your approach to that character better. When you have confidence in your skills, you believe it's only a matter of time before you get a role. You don't let missing roles or not getting roles deter you from continuing along this path. So when you don't get it, what you do is you go back to your practice and you keep practicing whatever it is that you feel you need to work on. And confidence allows you to do that. When you have confidence in your skills, you don't get intimidated when you walk into a casting session and see 10 to 15 other actors that look like you. And trust me, it's going to happen. Notice I have not used talent. Yes, this is a part of it, but it's not the most important thing. I promise you. Hard work and consistency beat talent any day. Many talented actors plateau because they believed that's all it would take. The key is to be consistently confident in your skills. And these skills should always be improving. And that's done by discovering who you are and what you can bring to the table and practicing that so that it becomes second nature to you. You can change your life by changing your focus. I have a small little story for you that hopefully will help you kind of wrap your head around these concepts and wrap your head around the journey of acting. There comes a point when you will start to look at what you do differently. But you have to do it enough to recognize the changes and also be confident enough to put them into practice. I heard a story from an actor once regarding an audition when the casting director made a simple comment at their first attempt at the scene. They simply said, "Don't act so much." A very simple yet effective note. The actor said, in that moment, it's like everything clicked. They didn't book the job, but this became very valuable for their process. Moral of the story, always be open and receptive. Now, going back to the previous slides, if you weren't confident in who you were and what you're capable of doing, someone saying that to you might have shattered you as an actor. And you might have felt, wow, maybe I'm not as good as I thought I was, or maybe I'll never be as good as I want to be. But it's in those moments where you can take that information and either let it build you up or break you down. So always be open and receptive to new information. It might help you. It might not. But you should have the confidence enough to decide on your own. That brings us to Chapter 5. Partners in crime. Agents. So what we're going to cover here is how to find, when to find, relationships, and understanding the money. So A good agent can make the world of a difference in your career, especially one that is experienced and well connected. An easy way to determine this is to see who they represent. If the agent you're thinking about has a few actors that you recognize, chances are they're pretty good. The best place to start looking for an agent is on the union website. If you're in America, that's going to be SAG. If you're in Canada, it's ACTRA. And I'm sure in other places of the world they have similar unions for actors. Usually you'll find agents here that have a good reputation. Another place to search for agents is IMDb Pro. If you can afford the membership, you can find a full list of agents and their roster and contact information. Please do not harass them. Some agencies will accept submissions. They might even have a portal for that on their website. Again, it's all about being respectful and using common sense. This is your business, and no one likes to deal with someone who comes across as desperate. Think about a guy or a girl that you might be interested in. And if they came across as desperate, would you really want to hang out with them or see what they're about? Nah, I don't think so. Another way to find an agent is to be referred. One thing to remember is you never know who knows who. So feel free to ask your family and friends if they know anyone who might be actors or people in the industry. They might be able to connect you to an agent. Oddly enough, that happened to actor Jovan Adepo. You might know him from Fences. He played Denzel Washington's son alongside Viola Davis and a few other notable actors. As the story goes, a friend of his parents in the church saw him in a play that he did there and said, hey, you're pretty good at this, you should pursue it. And at the time, he wasn't really serious about it, but he took note and said, hey, if I do end up going down that path, I'll let you know. And she said, of course, I have a sister who's an actor, and I'm sure she'd be willing to help. Fast forward a few years later, he decides to pursue acting and move to Los Angeles. So he calls up this lady from his church and says, hey, do you think you can connect me with your sister who's an actor? And she says, of course. Her name's Viola, as in Viola Davis. Moving on to when to find. This is a case-by-case basis. I don't think an ideal time is when you're ready to take advantage. I do think an ideal time is when you're ready to take advantage of what I like to call the power of new. This is a short window of opportunity when you're introduced to casting. Casting directors want to make that discovery of talent. When there's no point of reference, you're in a great position to leave a lasting impression. As they say, first impressions are key. Remember, this is a business, and with every interaction, you're building a business relationship that needs to be respected and nurtured. When an agent submits you to a casting director, they are essentially putting their reputation on the line for you. Your job is not to make them regret it. If you feel you're ready for this, then by all means, go ahead and start looking for an agent. It all starts with how you perceive yourself. And the truth behind that is how you treat yourself or how you see yourself is how others will see you and treat you. So if you treat yourself like an actor who's striving for something great and works hard and produces great work, then people will treat you like that. But if you're just in it for the giggles and don't really care too much about it and you're just going by, the wind, then people will treat you accordingly. Relationships. Go with your gut. The relationship with your agent has to be one of mutual trust, patience, and respect. Without these things, you're headed for disaster. Similar to a personal relationship, you're going to have tough situations and potential issues with your agent. Does this mean you should leave? Not necessarily. It's up to you to determine if the relationship is worth fighting for. If not, Respectfully remove yourself from that agency and try to find another one. Never think or feel that you're stuck. It's your career, and you have to ensure that every decision you make is beneficial to the overall outcome. However, this does not mean you should jump ship every time something doesn't go your way. This can reflect negatively on you. Think about it. If you're known as the actor that has gone through insert random number of agents, people, casting directors specifically, will start to question why. A good thing to remember is every move you make can have a negative or positive effect on your career. So choose wisely. Now, let's get to the part that I'm sure you're thinking about. Understanding the money. All legitimate agencies will be a part of some governing party or association that have a code of ethics that they must follow. Any agent that says you need to pay a fee up front to join or sign with them, walk away. Trust me, that's a big red flag. The reason why is agents only make money when you get work. If there's no work, they get no money. So it's in their best interest to try and submit you and promote you and get you as much work as possible, because that's how they get paid. Typically, an agent will take 15% commission for film, TV, and digital work. Commercials, theater, and voice work may vary. So that's something that you want to look into for each particular union. You might find that on the websites that I mentioned earlier for the SAG union, ACTRA union in Canada, and wherever you might be and their union rules. Key thing to remember, before you sign anything, make sure to read the contract carefully. It might not hurt to have somebody else read it over too. I find that when you're really invested in something, sometimes you can't see the red flags. So someone who might be not in the industry, maybe a parent or a friend or, someone else, you might have a lawyer in the family, who knows. Have them read over the contract and help them, and that might help you to identify any areas, gray areas, or any questions that you might want to ask this potential agent who is willing to represent you. And who knows, by the time you get a couple rolls under your belt, you could be dancing in the money too. Now finally, chapter 6, I have a few side notes, and these are just some things that I think will help you overall as an actor when you begin. One of them, and a major one, is self-tapes, joining an actors union, networking, and then just a general side note. So let's jump into this. So for those who don't know, self-tapes are a very, very important part of an actor's day-to-day. This is how you might submit to casting directors, whoever's putting a project together. This is how they're going to see you. This has become one of the main ways casting directors see actors. Technology has allowed for actors from across the globe to be consideration for great projects. So instead of traveling to the audition room, you record the audition on your phone or a DSLR camera. Your tapes should have good lighting. I suggest you use a tripod if you have it. Having a reader, which is someone who reads the other characters' lines in the scene, is always a good idea. And usually you slate your name, your height, and location, which is required in most cases. Okay. So again, some of the tools you might need are a camera, which could be a nice cell phone or a DSLR camera. These days, cell phones have become so good with video quality, you might not even need the DSLR. A tripod, I definitely suggest the tripod. This helps to keep your frame or your camera very still while you do your tape. Nobody wants to watch a video that's shaking crazy, like you're on a roller coaster. If you can get them, some studio lights, some LEDs, so that you're well lit and the casting directors or directors can see your face. In particular, having light in your eyes, I think, is very effective. That's where your soul is. People look in your eyes when they're talking to you. People look in the eyes when they first meet you, or they're trying to gauge what type of person you are. So I think it's very important to have your eyes well lit. Now, if you don't have studio lights, or you just can't afford it right now, that's fine. Just make sure you're well lit. And usually daylight is great for this. So if you can set up a spot in front of a window, just make sure that there's no shadows on your face. You want to be seen very clearly in that video. And finally, a directional mic also helps. Just as important as being seen is also being heard. So make sure you keep that in mind with your setup. And the image that I have here is your typical frame, or how you want to crop yourself within the image. All right. See, in this image, it's just above this gentleman's chest and slightly above his head. Okay, and you can give yourself a little bit more room, but no more or less than this. This is perfect. And a few tips. Again, your frame should be what we call a medium close-up from the chest up. Make sure you have good lighting. Also, nothing distracting in the background, all right, or noises. If you got a cat in the house, give him some food and put him in another room. We don't want to hear your cat meowing in the in the background of your tape. Always try and find a quiet space with no distractions. The focus should be on you and you alone. All right. And again, always try to have a reader off camera. I think that helps with just the pacing of the scene, and it's one less thing for you to think about. Don't major in minor things. What I mean by that is only focus on the things that you can control. All right? Don't focus on the big things. Just take it step by step by step. And usually small steps get you to where you need to be. Now, there's going to come a time where you will need to join some sort of actors union, whether it be for film and television, or theater, or whatever other unions there are for actors. Okay? This is fairly simple as far as I'm concerned. If you want to get where I think you do, joining a union is inevitable. Most professions have unions: police, teachers, trade workers. Therefore, if you consider yourself a professional, joining a union is the necessary step. With that being said, you can work as a non-union actor, but you won't be protected by the union, and you won't get paid the union rates as well as other benefits. Most of the legitimate paid work, or projects rather, will be union, meaning if you're non-union, you won't be allowed to be a part of those projects. For most actors' unions, the process is something like this. Number one, you book a union project with the help of your agent, of course, whether it's a commercial or a one-line role. Then, you pay for a permit from the union in order to do that project. Okay? Then, once you've done enough under permits, usually it's about 3 or 4, then you can apply to be a full member. And you have to pay a fee to join that union. And usually it's typically between $1,500 to $3,000. Okay? Now, once you're a member, you'll have to pay yearly union dues, and this covers some of those benefits that I talked about earlier. It might be dental or life insurance, or just overall protection if you're having issues with a production, or in terms of getting paid or whatnot. The union is there to help and protect you. Okay, so this is what your union dues are covering. All right, this is a part of what it means to be professional. So visit the website of your local actors union for specific details. Now, like any business, networking is key. All right. Now, I gotta be honest with you, this is always a murky subject for people in the industry. I must admit, it can make one feel a bit dirty. We all know that person who loves to network but doesn't realize they're coming off more annoying than beneficial than those they're trying to network with. With that being said, it's true what they say. It's not what you know, but who. I would encourage you to network when it feels natural and the opportunity presents itself. For example, if you come across a role that you feel you would be great for, see if you can find someone who can connect you to the people who are involved in the project. A mutual connection is always the best way to go. If not, a respectful email expressing your interest along with your materials is okay. Just don't spam someone's account. Just think about it. Would you want somebody to bombard your email account with countless emails about how much they love you and what you're doing and how they want to be involved? I'm sure you'd feel a little bit weird about it. So, think about how you'd feel about if a person did that to you. Remember, this is a business, so be professional. It is more beneficial to try something and fail than to do nothing and succeed. I think that's pretty self-explanatory. So here's a side note, just something I wanted to share with you. One of the ways to think about an audition, and acting is a lot about auditioning, and getting parts is from the perspective of making tomato soup. Yes, I know that sounds weird, but hear me out. Let's say, for example, a producer is making the soup, which is, let's say for this example, is a feature film. And they go to the grocery store, which is the casting director, to get the ingredients, which are you, the actors, to make the tomato soup. The casting director is going to present the best possible actors for the job. So think about what goes into tomato soup. Obviously tomatoes, maybe onions, garlic, some salt and pepper. Now, I think it's fair to say that avocado is not an ingredient that goes into tomato soup. Of course it could, but let's be honest, it's not a suitable choice. I mean, if you want to eat avocado in your soup, tomato soup, that's completely up to you. I'm not judging, but it's not likely. If we think about this in terms of actors, you could be the best avocado in the world, but it's not likely you're going to end up in the tomato soup project. I say this to illustrate that there are things out of your control and will prevent you from getting certain roles. All you can do is be the best, in this case, avocado you can be. So when the time comes for the guacamole project, you'll be ready. Focus on being the best version of yourself. And when the time is right, you'll shine. Before I get going, I just wanted to share with you 3 great resources that I think every actor starting out should read. The first of which is Notes to an Actor. I think it's a great book. It also comes as an audio book as well if you prefer. But there's some great notes in there on technique and just some generally good information when it comes to pursuing a career as an actor. A Practical Handbook for an Actor is also great, but this one focuses more on technique. If that's something you feel that you're struggling with, this might be a good place to start. And finally, One Less Bitter Actor. This is a great approach to the acting industry and your mindset. The author does a great job of sharing his experience as an actor and provides many examples of situations that you might find yourself in and how to deal with them. So with that being said, I just want to say thank you so much. I hope you enjoyed some of the information that I shared with you. And guess what? You're on your way. Once you've made up your mind to do something, that's half the battle. So thank you again. Good luck. And I hope to see you on set.